I don't want to say she's lost a step at all, but having the rest of the field catch up to her, that's what worries me a little bit right there. And you're no longer a crust above everybody else. Now you're fighting with the big dogs, and Alexa Grasso is coming to show up on Saturday night.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
Is it the end of an era? Well, Alexa Grasso is going to try to put the final nail in the Valentina Shevchenko era here this weekend. Noche UFC. It's not in Mexico City, but we are celebrating Mexican Independence Day here in the great state of Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada to be specific. Folks, welcoming me as always is the Santa Fe Bomber to New Mexico native, AJ. It's another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. This one feels different coming off of the high that was Sean Strickland, bro, winning the championship over Izzy. Give me some thoughts, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great, Derick, and you hit the nail on the head with, could this be the end of the era? Well, if you look at the past couple fights over the weekend, man, it seems like it's trending in that thing, Derick. I'm excited. La Raza's back in the card. Vegas is showing up, and we have a ton of new, not new fighters, but new Mexican fighters to the mix. They're going to be adding in their spice, brother. I'm excited for this one. I'm a little jealous, folks. If you don't know, Derick's going to be there live watching I don't mean to drop the news already, brother, but I'm a little jealous over here. Loving the fight capital of America, brother, and of the world. What am I talking about? I'm excited for this fight, Derick. Are you?
Yeah, I'm super hyped. I'm going to be there, folks. If I can, I'm going to try to bring some inside scoops, bring some knowledge on the post show from the things they don't show you on the broadcast. But I will say this, AJ, we are in this kind of weird era right now of all the long-standing champions. They're getting torn down right here. This main event is going to cap off what was at one point an incredibly hyped up card that AJ has fallen. It's suffered a little bit, right? Injuries, pullouts. Lots of big names no longer on the card, names such as Shavkat Rakhmonov, Kelvin Gastelum, Chris Curtis, Cynthia Calvillo, no longer on the card. It's okay because we have new, young, fresh blood that's going to be showing up and showing out. So, folks, before we get into all of that, I want you to take a quick look at the scoreboard below. You can see AJ is in the lead, 98-63-2. I'm right behind him, 96-66-2. We have a head-to-head competition, only a few more months remaining in that competition, but nonetheless, AJ, if we win, everybody at home watching, they win. So at the end of the day, right? If you help us, we'll help you. We love to give, we love to take, but at the end of the day, all they can do for us right now is hit that subscribe button. Am I right?
You hit the nail on the head again, Derick. Yeah, we all we can do is help you, and the best way you can help us is hitting that subscribe button, sharing those comments. We're doing it week in, week out, folks. And yeah, sure, that down right here might be a competition between Derick and I. But really, if you're choosing our picks, you're rolling with the money, this is the best way to kind of get your funds up right there through the betting odds. We're here week in and week out. There's a reason we're your favorite fighter's favorite fight show, folks, and it's because we're bringing everyone money, nonetheless ourselves. But most importantly, you find folks tuning in, so make sure you hit that subscribe button down below.
That's right. And if you don't like money, well, I don't know what to tell you. You found the wrong program. Folks, let's hit the TLDR. AJ, you know the countdown is starting. I'm going to give y'all like 3 solid seconds. 3, 2, 1. I hope you took a screenshots, folks, because that is it for the Bloody Water Podcast bet sheet right there. Now, what I want you to do is, if you did screenshot, run to your local sports book, cash in, make a ton of money, come back, subscribe if you haven't already done so yet, and then thank us later. But AJ, let's talk about it really quickly. Chalk, right? That's kind of the theme of the week. We're rolling with a lot of favorites here. Let me list off the Bloody Water Podcast consensus picks, and then I want you, as always, to give me a theme, more or less. Valentina Shevchenko, Raul Rosas Jr., Daniel Zellhuber, Fernando Padilla. We went damn near with all of the Latin fighters right here, because let's not forget, Shevchenko is Kyrgyzstan, but I think she got a little bit of love out there in like Peru, and she speaks Spanish and all that. Anyways, AJ, give us the theme.
My theme, Derick, is consistency and pressure. That's what I like most about all these fighters going in. I really wanted to go with Grasso so I could just say La Raza is my consensus, but I do think consistency and pressure takes over more towards that side. What about you, Derick? What's your theme going into this week?
Violence. I think it's violence. That's what it is. Everybody that we're picking right here has, I mean, it's more or less along the lines of what you said. Pressure, right? Walking forward, damn near sprinting forward in the case of Raul Rosas Jr. We'll see what happens. But the point is, I think everybody that we picked wants some violence here, and in a good way. Now, let's talk about the one controversial pick right here, AJ, and it's not really a controversy. It's really just a matter of two really, really, really good contenders right now, and it's tough to pick between them. I like Kevin Holland in this matchup. You like Della Maddalena. I don't think that as a standalone fan, even objectively, you can be mad at either pick. But if you had to give the people like a 1 to 2 sentence, kind of summary of like why you like JDM, why is it?
Consistency, Derick. I mean, consistency. We've seen him stay in his track. Even when he's having a hard time, he still stays true to who he is. Kevin Holland has had to grow a little bit, had to find his way, find the things that he's been lacking and really put them to work. I do agree with you, though. It's a very hard choice. I almost chose Kevin Holland myself. What about you, Derick? What do you think separates Holland from Maddalena on this one?
Well, I think it's hilarious because I almost chose Maddalena, but then I went Holland. And the reason why is because when you have two people who are so similar in terms of not just skill set, but just where they are in terms of just elite talent, right? Sometimes you have to go with the curveball, and I'm going to take the unpredictability that trailblazer, big mouth Kevin Holland brings. Might come back to bite me, might come back to get me to dove on the night, you know what I'm saying? But that's what we play the betting game for. AJ, real quick, let's talk about some prop locks. There you have it, folks. My man AJ is rolling deep with the Raul Rosas Jr. submission minus 115. AJ, real quick, because I'm going to talk about mine, and then we're going to jump into all of this. I believe I don't know if this is the first prop lock you've done at minus odds, is it?
I don't think so, Derick. I think I try to get them all around plus 100 or plus more than that, but this is one of the few that you're talking about. The sprinter, Raul Rosas. I see this working out for him. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. When you're giving someone a prop lock at minus odds, this thing better hit, AJ. So you extra on the hot seat today. But no, I agree. I do think that it's very, in the outcome of like likelihood, this is best path to victory. This is the easiest path to victory. I like Jasmine Jasvidicius on points plus 130. Folks, let me tell you a little story. Oftentimes you get the hotties of the world, the karate hotties of the world. The attractive, good looking women that are savages who fight in MMA. And oftentimes they get massively outweighed versus the opponent that is maybe a little less on the pretty side and more on the I get victory side. And for that reason, I'm not going to knock anybody. Listen, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. My point is, I think Jasmine Jasvidicius is falling victim in terms of perception because it's Tracy Cortez and it's Mexico, and this is what we're showing up for. Prop lock, we'll talk about it later in the prelim section. All right, AJ, with that being said, we good to jump into the main card? Want to hit anything?
Only thing I want to hit, Derick, is make sure that everybody's hitting that subscribe button. We said it once before. I'm going to say it again. I'm demanding y'all folks to hit it. If we're winning you money, I demand that you go and hit that thing, and the thing we'll do for you is win you some more week in and week out. That's what we're here for. Let's get it going.
That's right. All right, folks, let's talk some fights, baby. Let's get it.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
Alexa Grasso looks to put that final nail in the Shevchenko era right here. Now, Shevchenko, you have to really take into consideration, she's been doing it for a long time. We're pretty much talking about a 4 to 5 year span of just dominance, right? She fought, I believe it was Joanna Jędrzejczyk for a vacant title, ended up getting a victory here in the flyweight division, something of that nature. And then next thing you know, listen, history was written. So when we're looking at title defenses, AJ, I'm going to rattle them off real quick. She almost had the octagon. We know that. The coveted octagon. I don't even know if that's the word to say, but the belt with the rubies, right? All 8. Jessica Ai, Liz Carmouche, Caitlin Chikagian, Jennifer Maia, Jessica Andrade, Lauren Murphy, Tyler Santos, and then she ran into Alexa Grasso. And, it happened, right? The question is she going to fall into all of the other categories of champions who lose their belt and just can never quite get it back? Or look at Israel Adesanya, who loses it, gets it back, and then loses it again, right? We need consistency. I don't think that we've had a more dominant champion in the sport aside from John Jones than Valentina Shevchenko. With all of that being said, AJ, there's a lot to like about Alexa Grasso heading into this matchup, man. What do you like about Grasso up against the champion, Valentina?
I like Grasso, Derick, for her style of fighting. She's going to bring in the pressure. She's going to have knuckle up, but she's also going to have that confidence knowing that she was able to submit Valentina Shevchenko in their last fight. Face cracking, nonetheless, it was still a hell of a submission that she put herself into that situation to get the outcome. That's where I like Grasso. She finds herself in not comfortable positions, but in the most comfortable position she can in order to win the fight. That's what I like most about Alexa Grasso, as well as her composure, Derick. Nonetheless, the X's and the Y's, all that stuff. Yes, she's a very technical fighter, beautiful fighter, very composed in there, and that's why I like her the most, Derick. Do you see any other X factors going into this fight that she can exploit over Shevchenko?
Yeah, man. And I think it's honestly, you have to consider something's probably in the back of Shevchenko's head, which is saying that fight that you beat me in, that was a fluke. And I think it's always tough for a champion because sometimes you need to simply admit defeat. Like, I was not the better person on that night. They got me. I'm going to train harder. I'm going to come back. Instead, Valentina, and I think it's almost given based on the dominance she's had, I think she really thinks in her head like that I would have won that fight. She was winning the fight. She was, right? But I do think that there were some intangibles around Alexa Grasso that made it was closer than we thought. And I think that had it gone all 5 rounds, it would have come down to a close decision. Now, the question ultimately becomes this. Grasso was getting out-grappled in that fight. Turned it around with that beautiful back take to exploit the spinning back kick, the coveted, patented spinning back kick of Shevchenko. Shevchenko, she's spinning in this fight?
No, I don't think so, Derick. If like you said, she was winning the fight until she starts pulling out the spinning shit. And that's where I think she's going to learn and show that veteranship that she has in order to not fall into those same kind of traps. I mean, but then again, abs being said, when the adrenaline's pumping, we go back to what we know the most. And Shevchenko has been doing it for so long. It's going to be hard to kind of break those skills. So do I expect her to shoot, or do I expect her to spin? Excuse me. No. But will it happen? Probably. I mean, what do you think? How many times out of 10 do you see in this fight we're going to be seeing Shevchenko throwing kind of that wild, unorthodox striking? Because she's a beautiful striker, has the techniques to get it done, and has landed them in the past. Do you see history repeat itself in this one?
Well, I think that her spinning stuff, man, is not untechnical. I think it actually lends to the technical nature of her striking, and I do think that she goes back to it. The reason why is because if you stop fighting the way that got you to the dance in the first place, that's when you lose, for real, when you change your entire game plan. I do think that this is going to be a heavy grappling affair from Shevchenko, and I think that if you're going to be looking to get into a dominant position, I think she's going to kind of go the Jessica Andrade approach and try to just get her down, crucifix, and get a finish. I think that that's going to be the most likely path to victory for Shevchenko, given that if you look at who you would assume is a decision machine between the two, you would probably think Shevchenko, but it's actually Grasso. Grasso has actually, she's only finished 2 of her last 8 or so victories, right? A lot of them are becoming decision victories, right? So I just think that ground game is going to come into play. On the feet, Grasso's sharper, man. She's faster. Her boxing is more crisp, and I think that she's going to be able to touch Shevchenko. She countered her really nice in that first fight. It's going to be tough to say ultimately because Grasso is going to come in with a defined confidence. She has Mexico behind her, right? She has Diego Lopez in her corner, right? The UFC newcomer beast jiu-jitsu guy, right? And Shevchenko, man, is going to be that relic of the past who's going to try to stay relevant. I love me some Shevchenko, but I do understand that the fight game moves on. What is, if any major concern for Shevchenko in this matchup, what is it for you?
Father time, Derick, father time. That's kind of the biggest thing that we've seen a lot of the other champions fall into. They stay where they are while the rest of the competition catches up to them. And arguably, that could be what's kind of going on right now, even with Shevchenko's last fight before the Grasso one, the Tyler Santos fight. A lot of people were arguing, she's losing her step. She's getting slower. She's doing all this. And I agree with you. Grasso does have a little bit sharper of skills. The speed is there. Can Shevchenko work on her veteranship, exploit the strength she has to use, and actually get this fight to the ground? I do think that's the best outcome for her. But what worries me the most is that little, not lack of step, because I don't want to say she's lost a step at all, but having the rest of the field catch up to her, that's what worries me a little bit right there. And you're no longer a crust above everybody else. Now you're fighting with the big dogs, and Alexa Grasso is coming to show up on Saturday night.
Let's talk props. Listen, I'm a little surprised here, man. Grasso for a submission plus 350, for a TKO plus 1200, decision plus 350. Props aren't super valuable for Grasso. Is this a matchup here, though, that you're looking at the odds and you look at, okay, on one hand, Shevchenko, statistically, I don't think that she's been anything lower than a minus 300 favorite, bro, since I think since she fought Joanna Jędrzejczyk, legitimately. I think it's been that long. It's been years, right? So getting her at minus 160 is almost a steal. You know what I mean? However, you have Alexa Grasso where it's plus 135 for the champion. who looked really good in the fight and had a lot of intangibles going into it that lends to confidence.
The plus 350 for both submission and decision. This fight can end in a multitude of ways. So I see a lot of value going into that plus 135 money line. Do you see it the same way, Derick? Are you hedging the bet if you're a Shevchenko bettor?
Yeah, this is a matchup where I think that you go heavy on Shevchenko, but you throw a little something on the back end for Alexa Grasso because, like I said, you're thinking about history, you're thinking about trajectory, and I think with that being said, even though we feel confident here, I feel very confident at least that Shevchenko gets the job done either by finish or by decision. There's something in the air, man, and you cannot discount that, man. So you definitely want to be able to not drop anything too crazy, but I think $10 on Alexa Grasso at minimum. Just kind of drop a little something. Anything else on this one, AJ?
Man, the only thing I got over here is I'm going with Shevchenko for this one, and I actually like that plus 350 finish just because I think she needs to solidify it to actually make it worth it. I do think if this goes to decision, this might be headed towards a Grasso victory.
I could definitely see a split going into this being something weird. We'll see. All right, folks, that is your main event. Hopefully, we see and new. I don't know. We shouldn't say that, right? We should be objective. All right, let's keep it pushing, AJ. For co-main event, Kevin Holland saves the day almost with Della Maddalena, man. I mean, listen, we lost some big names. We got some bigger names to come and replace. Maybe not bigger names, but some fun names. Now, Kevin Holland said, you want me to fight? Just make sure there's a taco truck outside of the stadium when I go, and then it's all good because he's like an honorary La Raza over here. But he's got a mean Australian, and sorry if he's New Zealand, but, vicinity. You got a mean guy, Della Maddalena, man. A lot of people think that this is going to be his coming out party. People are already high on him. He's knocked out a bunch of guys. Coming off of a performance that could have been better, but you have to take into consideration that the circumstance wasn't there, right? He just needed to fight. He said, I'll fight anybody. I'll weigh in multiple times. I don't care. You know what I mean? So he got the win, right? Kevin Holland, he provides a lot of interesting challenges for Della Maddalena. Most important, AJ, let's not forget, Kevin Holland's a black belt. Do we see him try to not go big mouth style and just try to grapple up Della Maddalena here?
Ooh, that's an interesting one, Derick. I actually was thinking about that when I was breaking down these fights. I do see Kevin Holland finding success in that ground game, especially if Della Maddalena, especially if he's looking to cause that pressure, looking to cause that forward motion like he does, and especially if he's sitting in tight with his guard like Della Maddalena likes to. I see Kevin Holland cutting angles and getting to a double leg, putting Jack on his butt, and actually working for the jiu-jitsu. Do you think it happens that kind of way, Derick, where it's going to be offensive for Kevin Holland, or is this going to be a defensive sort of jiu-jitsu match for him? What do you think?
Well, it's really tough to say, man. Well, I opened up the show by saying that Kevin Holland provides an unpredictability that can lend to a win or a major loss and make you feel kind of dumb. But at the end of the day, I'd rather go with the unpredictability than somebody who's going to be cookie cutter because that's where he gets the crazy Jacare knockouts off of his back, hammer fist to the chin, right? This is a spot right here where I can see Della Maddalena having a lot of success getting on the inside and bypassing that really long reach of Kevin Holland because he does tend to overextend on his shots. So what's Maddalena going to do? Beat up the body, try to use timing, rhythm, boxing, put himself in a position to just kind of war of attrition knockout right there. But Kevin Holland, this is not a 170-pound fighter right here, even though it's at welterweight, right? We know he could crack with the big boys, and we've seen it, man. He lands one good one. He's got a crazy reach advantage. He's got an 8-inch reach advantage on Della Maddalena, so that's got to come into play. But AJ, to answer your question, that's where it comes into that offensive grappling that starts defensive but turns offensive. You close the distance too quick, you don't do it the right way, you get your neck snatched, standing guillotine, fall down, darce. I mean, long leg dudes like Kevin Holland are going to be a massive problem for cats like Della Maddalena. Even still, I'm still very confident that Della Maddalena will make this a very close fight because while we can agree, number 13 for Holland, number 14 for Maddalena, would you agree that Kevin Holland is a little bit of a step up for Della Maddalena?
100%, especially if you take his UFC career into perspective. I mean, don't get me wrong. Who was it? Randy Brown, Rude Boy Randy Brown. That was a step up in the competition, especially from Danny Roberts. But then, like you said, there was the weird stuff that happened with the Bazell fight or with Hafez, whatever his last name is. And having Jack kind of just wanting to fight everybody does provide a little bit of that. But I mean, a step up in competition is kind of almost an understatement, man. You go look at who Kevin Holland has fought. He's fought the who's who, names among names of people who have been in the UFC for a long time. and solidified themselves as absolute killers. Now, going back to a little bit what you're saying, Derick, I like where your head's at. Jack Della will work in the boxing, get on the inside, really, staying as technical as he can in that kind of phone booth style of fight. But let's not forget what happened to Buckley against the Kevin Holland when he's entering, when he's coming in fast. That's what worries me for Jack Della Maddalena. You're encroaching on Kevin Holland's space. He doesn't need the length to do his damage. He can crack you in from here as you're walking in, stepping in. You just need just a little bit of chin up in the air, and Kevin Holland's going to find that mark. Do you see that kind of technical prowess as big of a problem as I do for Jack Della Maddalena? I mean, in that last fight, the Hafez fight, he was getting cracked. The good thing is he has a hell of a chin, so he's able to stand up to it. I don't know if that's going to be the same case when you don't see it coming like Kevin Holland is able to present. What do you think?
I think the difference between that Hafez fight and this Holland fight is that Hafez had the threat of the takedown throughout the entire fight. So it's really hard to really get into, oh, you want to box? Let's box, right? When you're like, you're going to shoot for my legs any second. This is a trap, right? Kevin Holland doesn't quite provide that. And then look at what he did against Wonder Boy, man. The gentleman's agreement, no takedowns. We're just going to go and do this. And then when the fight started getting sticky, oh, let me try to clinch you up and stuff like that. So it depends on how seriously Kevin Holland takes easiest path to victory into account. But I do agree, closing that distance is going to be a pretty massive problem for Jack Della Maddalena. I still think that he can do it. I still think that if he can get past, because Holland isn't like a super volume striker, right? So when you're coming in, he might throw the one big right hand, but if you overextend on it, now Maddalena's in, he could throw a three-piece combo and skip out. I think that leg kicks are going to come into factor here. Even those little weird oblique kicks to the knee, things like that, teeps, all of it is going to matter. I just think that Kevin Holland, better body of work, tougher opposition, more time tested. He's already had his opportunity to have the nonsense fights that we've seen, the Derek Brunson fights, Marvin Vettori fights, and all that good stuff. And this is a showcase spot to do it in front of a bunch of fans that love him, man. Like I said, honorary Mexican with the taco truck right on outside the stadium, you dig? So with that being said, let's take a look into these odds. At open, when I took these down, -115 for Holland, -105 for Jack Della Maddalena. It's actually swollen much larger in favor of Jack Della Maddalena, -155 with a +130 comeback for Kevin Holland, which now at this point, AJ, does feel a little disrespectful to me. So I will say, if you are a bettor, you need to cash in on Kevin Holland right here. +130 just seems out of line. It doesn't bode well with me. And it's not because I'm a big Holland fan. It's just look at the skill set of these two. Look at the more well-rounded fighter. What do you think about that?
I couldn't agree with you more, Derick. If you're looking at Kevin Holland to be winning this fight, folks, +130 money is absolutely a steal for this dude because he has the repertoire to be able to mix things up, give Jack Della Maddalena a situation in which he hasn't presented himself in yet. Mm-hmm. That worries me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm glad the money has swollen in my favor, Derick, but at the same time, that gives me a little pause for concern. I mean, maybe too many people are putting their eggs in the basket of what have you done for me lately as far as Kevin Holland has fallen into that quote unquote obscurity level. It's not true. I mean, this guy is not obscure at all. He is an absolute killer. Worries me a little bit. I'm still rocking with Jack, but man, this is going to be a very close fight, folks.
That's right. And let's just list off the last losses for Kevin Holland. It was Wonderboy Thompson, Khamzat Chimaev, Marvin Vettori, Derek Brunson. Like, you got some legit talent right there. Either way, I'm expecting this to be nothing but nonstop fireworks. I like Kevin Holland here. And folks, I actually wouldn't be mad at that +325 TKO. But if you want some juice that you're not thinking about, +500 for the submission. That's something to definitely think about. All right, AJ, do you got any juice on any of these props? You ready to push it?
Ooh, that +500 for the submission is possible, Derick. I like where your head's at. I think Jack Della Maddalena, if he gets this done, it's going to be that +350 decision.
All right, fair enough. Now let's keep it pushing to AJ. We got the 18-year-old Raul Rosas Jr. He comes in reinvigorated, and a lot of people are saying they gave Terrence Mitchell Rosas Jr. specifically so they can get the hype train back going for him. I think that's the wrong approach to take, and I think that there's one major discrepancy I have in this matchup, and I have to be upfront about it. I like the talent of Rosas. I think that he can get the takedown in this fight. I think he can get the submission in this fight. The big problem that I see here for Raul Rosas Jr. is after a performance like he had in his last one against Christian Rodriguez, legit jiu-jitsu guy right there, he opened as a -500 favorite. AJ, if I look at the live odds right now, -800 favorite with a 550 comeback for Terrence Mitchell. They're showing no love to Terrence Mitchell here. And like I said, I think they lined this up strategically. But can you have that much confidence in Rosas Jr., given that it's pretty much grappling or bust? He put out like under 10 strikes in his last fight. What do you think?
I don't have that much confidence around Rosas Jr., Derick, especially that minus 800. That's wild, especially for somebody who it's his third fight in the UFC. I'm looking over here at it. Yeah, man, this dude is what most people would call untested. Yes, he's young. He's 18. He has a bravado. He has all the stuff going into this. But this is a different stage, man. And yeah, he's competed in it multiple times, but still to that point, he's still young. He still makes the young mistakes. And we saw in his last fight against Christian Rodriguez, he was prone to making those mistakes. He was prone to falling into the traps that young fighters do. We've all been there. You fall into the things that are comfortable for you, and the older guys know how to exploit that. For this fight right here, I can see why people are thinking this is a gimme fight or a get back on the hype train kind of fight for Raul Rosas. But if he's going in there thinking that Terrence Mitchell is a dog, unfortunately in his last performance against Cameron Simon, not the best display. And I don't expect him to be shooting like he did against Simon, against Rosas. I do expect him to be using the length, using the size, using the speed that Terrence Mitchell presents in order to get things done. Do you think he's going to be as effective as he possibly can be in that aspect, Derick, of maintaining the range, keeping the distance, or is just the speed of Rosas too much?
I think that Terrence Mitchell is going to show a different performance given that it's not a short notice fight. He had a full training camp on this one. He had already even mentioned, he was like, I was working like at my job, my sales job, when they called me for the opportunity. Like it wasn't the right timing, but I had to take the opportunity. Now I get to show a full display of my skill set. Only problem is, even though 33-year-old man looks strong as hell, if you even seen some of those grappling exchanges versus Cameron Simon, like he was using pure strength to be able to negate some of that stuff. Only problem is he has length, does not use it particularly well in past experience. Big 5-year layoff in the midst of his MMA career. A lot of his exposure has come in from like the Alaskan MMA scene, which shout out. You have the Jared Cannoniers and you have the Lauren Murphys of the world out there in Alaska at one point at least. But I just think that Raul Rosas, when you look at him and you look at his ability to go forward and to grab you, and he even had Christian Rodriguez's back, man. He got to the spot we wanted him to be in. He just couldn't finish. I don't know if Terrence Mitchell has the same chops to be able to stop the finish from happening. Because if you know it's going to happen, you just have to be able to not actually get finished. Do you have confidence that that can happen? If Raul Rosas takes Terrence Mitchell's back, is the fight over?
100%, Derick, and that's what I think the UFC is hoping for, at least planning for. If all the stars line up in UFC, which we know it never does, that's what the UFC is looking for, man. That submission from Raul Rosas, the pressure he's going to have. If everything works out, I'm expecting like a round one kind of dominant victory, and I can imagine that's what the UFC hopes for too. That's why it's my prop lock, Derick, at that minus 160 odds. It makes the most sense. This is the best way for Raul Rosas to actually get in, get the job done, and get him back to the kind of stardom he's projected to be at. That being said, when you know it's what's going to happen, you have so many opportunities to defend it, to get prepared for it, to actually visualize what's going on, and then counteract it. It does give me a little bit of worry because, like you said, man, in Raul Rosas' last fight, 10 strikes output. He's going to have to work a lot harder than that to actually get into the place, unless he just, runs at it from the jump and really gets something going. I think Terrence Mitchell might be able to avoid that, but we'll see, Derick. Do you see a lot of value in that plus or in that minus 160 like I do?
Well, just to be clear, when you got the prop lock, it actually lowered down to minus 115. So you're getting a little better juice on that one. And I actually have to revise that statement. We keep saying 10 strikes for Raul Rosas. It was actually 2. He landed 2 strikes in that fight. So not boding very well. But the point is right here, AJ, I do see value in the submission. Like I said, I think that's how he gets it done, especially given the lack of striking. If he goes out there and tries to prove he's some great striker, that's when we have problems here. And that's why I have to give full transparency. Yes, do I like Raul Rosas here? Am I betting on Raul Rosas? Yes. I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you I'm not going to drop just like a quick 10, 15 bucks on Terrence Mitchell at plus 550 odds. This is a 33-year-old grown man. Come on, this is an 18-year-old versus a 33-year-old. I'm not going to say nothing because Jay Perrin, he got choked out by Rosas, so anything can happen. He was a grown man too. But I just think that if Rosas feels him and he's like, oh, Mitchell's a little bit stronger than I thought, we could have some problems. Either way, realistically, I like Raul Rosas. First round finish. Terrence Mitchell, he's been all of his fights pretty much of his last 10, only 2 of them have gone longer than the first round. So just take that into consideration. Rock with El Niño Problema, Raul Rosas Jr. All right, AJ, let's move on. Daniel Zellhuber versus Christos Giagos. AJ, Zellhuber is one of those fighters who came into the UFC super hyped. Trey Ogden shut that down real quick. However, he comes back in his next fight against arguably a way tougher opponent in Lando Venata, and he put it on him, man. He showed he is the real deal. Well, guess what? That dude, Christos Giagos, that guy that has fought a bunch of killers that nobody gives him credit for, well, you give him somebody, an aging veteran in Ricky Glenn, who I thought had already retired. Well, he put his lights out. He probably did retire him right there. So Giagos is coming into this one with some steam on him. He's got something to prove, and I imagine he wants to shut down the UFC newcomer in a statement-type fashion. Do you have that level of confidence in a Christos Giagos, who we've seen be very good, but just underperform when it counts? Do we see him doing well here against Daniel Zellhuber?
Do we see him doing well? Yes, Derek. I think he's going to put on a quality match, if you will. I mean, don't get me wrong, Christos Giagos, there's been points in his career where I didn't have that much confidence and where I only thought of him as just, a type A fighter, a type B fighter. We love the grappling he gets done, but just it's hard for him to find himself in those positions where he's able actually to, turn the tables and get the win on those. But for Christos Giagos, I think the biggest thing right here for me is not falling into that mental trap of I'm the old guy that's on the ropes. I'm the old guy that's getting looked over by everybody. This is another chance for him to shine just like he did in that Ricky Glenn fight, especially against a taller, longer, lankier fighter. Hopefully Christos Giagos has the power, because if you've watched any of his fights, he does have the power to get this knockout. He does have the strength in order to do great things. But at the same point, you're going up against a very dangerous Zellhuber, who also has the strength, who also has the speed, the length, all the things are going for him. It seems like the chips are stacked against Giagos. Do you have a lot of confidence in Giagos' abilities to, knock that stack down?
I think that if he cannot hold down Zellhuber, it's going to be a short but long night at the same time. Zellhuber has a 6-inch reach advantage, really like a 5.5-inch reach advantage, but that's nonetheless. He uses his tools very well. He's rangy, and if he catches you at the end of his punches, it's going to be a big problem right here. I really, really like Daniel Zellhuber. I don't think that this is a smash spot, but I think that this is a good test from a guy who has bombs in his fists, but if he cannot close that distance, get a takedown, or land the big shot, I think Zellhuber just picks him apart from range all night long. What do you think?
Yeah, man, Derick, I couldn't agree with you more. And what I think worries me the most going in for Christos Giagos, yeah, he has the power. He's going to try to close that distance. But when he does and he resets, Daniel Zellhuber has the ability to close that distance from range and actually pick you apart. And like you said, hit you at the end of the punches. That's where I find the most danger going for Christos Giagos in this one. And it's worrisome. I mean, don't get me wrong, Zellhuber, I think, is going to have a long career in the UFC. But Christos Giagos can get this done, folks. Don't sleep on him if you are, because he is a dangerous man.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's fought the Thiago Moises, Armin Sarukian, Sean Soriano, Jakar Close, Chucky Olives. I mean, Charles Oliveira right there. Like, come on, man. This dude has fought Damir Hadzovic. I mean, Carlton Minus. The hit list goes on. Like, he's fought good guys. It's not even a question. But Daniel Zellhuber just happens to be that new up-and-comer that you cannot just treat as, this is just some new guy. Like, this guy got some heat on him. And I just think that on the feet, it's going to be too much of a problem. I think he overwhelms him. Give me Daniel Zellhuber. I like a finish right here, but if you look at it, man, Giagos is not an easy guy to get out of there unless you really swarm him. And I'm just not sure if he'll be able to do it the same way that like an Armin Sarukian did. But I do like that plus 250 TKO. So give it to me, baby. Let's go. Daniel Zellhuber, give me a finish. AJ, what do you think?
I like that plus 250, Derek, but I'm actually going on the other side of it, man. I'm going with that plus 170 decision. I think Christos Giagos is going to put up quite a fight, and when he's in danger, we're going to see him get this fight to the ground. If you can't hold him down, like you said, it's going to be a long night, and that's why I'm expecting that plus 170 decision. Give it to me for Daniel Zellhuber.
Yes, sir. All right, and now to open up the bout, AJ. Fernando Padilla versus Kyle Nelson. You want to talk about a guy that got some crack in his shots, extended combinations, long, rangy? You're talking about Fernando Padilla. And he made his UFC debut in really short fashion, dude. He said, Julian Juicy J. Arosa, you're a dangerous striker, huh? And he is, but he gave it to him, and he got him out of there quickly. Now, you're looking at the other side of the spectrum. Kyle Nelson is a veteran that I think that this is a really well matched up matchup. I guess, for lack of a better term. And the reason why is because Kyle Nelson, man, this dude can stick around. Yeah, has he had an up and down career? Lots of losses to some good guys, Jai Herbert, Billy Q, Diego Fajeda. I mean, those are some good guys, right? He's always there, and he's going to stick around until you get him out of there. Now, Fernando Padilla, coming off of a fantastic victory where he just knocked off Julian Erosa really quickly, could come into this fight a little overconfident, especially against a guy like Kyle Nelson, who, like I said, peripheral-wise, you don't think much of him, but I'm telling you, this guy's a tough test. Does that play into this fight? Do you think that Kyle Nelson has a psychological advantage, given that he might be super overlooked in this one?
Yes, Derek. I mean, it's always goes into this fight of who has the most to lose. At this point, it's Fernando Padilla. He has all the momentum, all the stardom, all the glory to lose. For Kyle Nelson, he's down just to be one of the boys in the locker room that's actually getting done all the time. And I mean, whether he's down for that or not, that's where he's kind of found himself into that position, and he thrives well in there. You were talking about Kyle Nelson finding himself always in the fight. That's the reason he won that Blake Builder fight. Was he getting controlled and kind of beaten up in the first round? Some would argue yes. But he was able to stay there, find his moments, get him to where he was most advantageous, and got the dub. That's what worries me about Kyle Nelson going into this fight. He does have the power and the precision and all the X factors, but he also can lean on that veteranship that he's been in there before. He's been in the hard moments. He's had the losses. He's had the wins. He has all those things to get it done. For Padilla, it does worry me a little bit, but I mean, he has some amazing coaches behind him. This dude throws an amazing front kick up the top, and I do think for this fight, I think there's a reason this is at the front of the card, Derek. We're going to see a crazy kickboxing match. This is going to be a lot of fun. Do you see fireworks, or are we here for a technical battle for these two?
I don't think that Fernando Padilla has the right dance partner for fireworks in this matchup. Very similar to how I talked earlier about Tracy Cortez, Jasmine Jasvidicius. I think they want to see fireworks, but I don't think it's the right dance partners, man. Kyle Nelson, I think that if he's smart, he tries to close the distance, clinch up Fernando Padilla, get him against the cage, and do his work and make it dirty in a good way. Not in a, you know what I mean, dirty boxing type. Yeah, not that stuff, right? But the other stuff. I think that that's his best path, man. You cannot be out at range with Fernando Padilla. This is very similar to Daniel Zellhuber. You can't. Or else you're cruising for a bruising. I mean, come on, what are we talking about here? Now, where it gets interesting to me is, do you think Kyle Nelson can hold down Fernando Padilla? Is that in the cards?
Ooh, good question. I think yes, Derek. At least for the time being, we haven't seen Padilla actually get up from bad positions like that. We have seen Kyle Nelson do really well in those positions. I mean, even his Duo Choi fight, we saw moments where he was having success in there, and I do think that's going to be what's on the mind of Kyle Nelson going into this fight. Is you have to control this dude. You have to put him in those deep, bloody waters that we like to see in order to get the win right here. Kyle Nelson, man, he has all the intangibles to get it done, but will he have that crack? Will he have that, that pop, that speed on fight night? Because we know Padilla is going to show up with all those intangibles as well. He has that youthful vigor to him that provides just a little bit of edge, but I do think the mental edge that Nelson has is going to go miles in this fight. Do you agree, Derek?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I like Padilla via TKO here, honestly. If I'm just being real about it, I think that Nelson can pick and choose his moments. I think he can have some good spots. But I think Padilla, if he catches him out at range, it only takes a couple. And the beautiful part about it is he doesn't just throw one. He's got one followed up with three behind it. So you better be ready to get out of dodge, man, because this guy is going to hurt you. I think that this is a little bit of a chalky week here, AJ, but I do think that Padilla probably steamroll showcase bout. What do you think?
I think so, Derek. I really like that plus 165 odds. You're going to have a lot of trouble entering space on Padilla, especially because he throws really nice things up the middle. So even if you want to get inside, you're going to have to eat some shots to do it. I like Padilla. Give me that knockout 165.
All right, folks, that is your main card, Noche UFC. We're doing a La Raza card. You got to love it. Now, AJ, for the most coveted part of the show, we need to talk about some sleepers, right? The unknowns of today, but the stars of tomorrow, right? That's who you care about. Aaron Blanchfield was not a star not that long ago. It was just a year or two ago. Nobody really knew who she was. Look at Raul Rosas. Before he was on the scene, he was in the regionals. People knew about this guy. In Vegas, people knew about this guy. He's in the UFC all of a sudden. Something that you need to keep in mind. So with that being said, folks, here's your sleeper section.
Time for some fight night.
And if you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
All right, AJ. So Generally speaking, we have a golden rule here for the sleeper section, and we're giving our 60-second bar pitch. So we don't need to break down the ins and outs, but folks, we want to let you know why you need to tune into this fight. If we were at the bar, a fight was coming on, you were busy talking to some beautiful lady, we're saying, hey, brother, listen, go talk to her later. The fights are on. You need to go check it out. AJ, let me bring it up on the screen. Talk to the people. Charlie Campbell versus Alex Reyes. What do we got on this one?
Folks, I'm actually taking a page out of Derick's book for this card right here. He said his consensus or his ideas about this word violence. That's why I chose this fight right here, folks. Both of these fighters right here, Charlie Campbell and Alex Reyes, are both finishers. You scroll down a little bit, you look, a lot of them are just first round, second round finishes. And yeah, you can see that Charlie Campbell does have a lot of fans going for him, but a lot of those fans are looking for that KO. I'm looking for the same thing. Reyes can get this done in a multitude of ways as well. Don't get me wrong, they're not just strikers. These guys are MMA artists who have come up doing the mixes of the martial arts, but can get it done very, very fast, man. And that's why I like this fight right here. Pure violence from the jump. Both of these dudes are new into the UFC. Both of these dudes have the potential to be stars. It's just going to be who's the one that knocks the other one out first. This is a lot of fun. You can actually see it, man. Mike Perry, an L to Mike Perry for Alex Reyes. Not a bad loss, man. The savage that Mike Perry is. The fact that Alex Reyes had the cojones to jump in there proves he's one of the real deal dogs. This is going to be a lot of fun, folks. Tune in. 60-second bar pitch. You need to watch this fight. You need to put some money on it. Derick, what do you think and who you got?
That's going to be a good fight, man. I bet on Charlie Campbell against Chris Duncan, and I lost that one. I'm so sad. But this dude is good. This dude is really good, bro. So I'm not mad about it. I'm willing to take him again. And, yeah, I just think that my bet is somebody goes to bed in this one. That's my bet. I'm not betting sides. I'm betting sleep. That's it. All right, AJ, now you want to talk about another exciting, violent clash right here? Do I got to bring him up every time, AJ? Now, this one counts because he goes under different monikers, right? Daniel Lacerda, right? You might look at that guy and you're like, oh, who is that guy? That's Daniel Da Silva right there. My man who is 0-4 in the UFC, but he still keeps getting shots. Why? Because my man is exciting. So this is what you need to know. Edgar Chairez, the Pit Bull, he came off of a loss in his last fight to none other than Tatsuro Taira, right? So you can't be mad at my man who put on a very formidable match and actually took Taira to a decision. Like, you got to give him props for that, right? Well, guess what? You're fighting a guy, once again, in Daniel Da Silva, who has lost KO, submission, TKO, and then TKO again, right? However, you might be wondering, for a guy who is 0-4 in the UFC, who has been finished in every single one of his fights, why does he keep getting shots? The reason why is because in most of these fights, he's winning until he's not, right? And that's kind of the point. You bring exciting fights. He's coming off of like a performance of the night, fight of the night type matchup in his last one. Who is this? CJ Vergara, right? Where he had CJ Vergara running for his life. My point is this. This is celebrating Mexican Independence Day. You got a Brazilian and then you got a Mexican who are going to go toe-to-toe in the middle of that cage, and somebody is going to walk out there limping, unconscious, halfway conscious, something like that. That's all you need to know, folks. I don't even need to explain the rest of the stuff there for you. So without any shadow of a doubt, you need to tune into this fight. If any of the ones on the prelims, if you want to see some violence, you want to see some action, if you want to see some highlights, and that's why that is your sleeper here, courtesy of the Bloody Water Podcast. AJ, what do you think about that one?
Woo, folks, Derick said it best. I'm betting on sleeps for this prelim, man. It is going to be wild. Hey, La Raza comes to bang all the time, and this is exactly what this fight night is for. Going to be a lot of fun, folks. You need to tune in, and if you're winning some money, make sure you drop it in the comments, folks. There are people inside and outside, week in, week out, all over the entire world now, man. This is global, folks. You better jump on. You better make sure you're paying attention so you don't get left behind.
Absolutely. And with that being said, AJ, let's talk about a couple of the other bouts that we have yet to bring up. Now, we don't have a lot of time here today. We're not running super behind, but we can't really splurge too much on too many of these matchups. I want to highlight a couple of them, though. There's really like two in particular, if I'm being honest, AJ, so we don't have to spend that much time. The first one is Roman Kopylov versus Josh Fremd. Now, AJ, I talk about this one a lot, and I have in the last week off air, because this is one of the weird situations where you have two replacement fighters become a new original booking, right? So it was supposed to be Chris Curtis versus the Action Man, right? No, Chris Curtis is the Action Man versus Fluffy. There we go. Anthony Hernandez?
Anthony Hernandez.
Yes, sir. All right. It was supposed to be Chris Curtis versus Anthony Hernandez. Chris Curtis gets injured. Something happens. He pulls out. Roman Kopylov steps up to fight Anthony Hernandez. Anthony Hernandez pulls out. Well, Josh Fremd said, well, I just fought Jamie Pickett. I was supposed to finish that guy. I didn't. I got a definitive win, but the boss man isn't happy with me. So what can I do? I can play company man and let me go fight Roman Kopylov, who was won his last 10 all by finish. This is going to be an interesting one. Two really long-rangey guys. Kopylov is by far the more dangerous striker, but Josh Fremd is going to probably try to wrestle, get him down. AJ, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
I really like Kopylov. One is a fighter, but two in this fight for being able to use that striking he has. But Josh Fremd does present, a very dangerous option in that ground game and in that power and in that control. If Josh Fremd gets this fight to the ground, I see a lot of trouble for Kopylov. But at the same point, if Fremd doesn't, this might be a quick one for Kopylov. What do you think?
Bro, Kopylov normally has a size advantage against these guys. Josh Fremd is all of 6'4", man. Kopylov is 6 feet tall, so he's going to be the smaller man. But yeah, I think the number one goal is don't let your back touch the mat, pretty much. Don't let your back touch the mat. Teep kicks and walk forward. Heavy pressure. That's going to be the name of the game. That's how you get the victory. I like Roman Kopylov here. I think he gets a finish right here. And I think that, like I said, playing company man here for Josh Fremd, the good old Josh Fremd. All right, AJ, Lupi Godinez returns to action against Elise Reed. This is actually another short notice one that turned into a whole amalgamation. We can actually take a look here and see all of these cancellations that we had. Yasmin Lucindo was supposed to fight Elise Reed, but I believe that was even a short notice one. Oh yeah, it was Cynthia Calvillo versus Elise Reed. And then Yasmin Lucindo. Who steps in for Yasmin Lucindo? Well, like I said, it's Lupi Godinez, the ever game Lupi Godinez. This is probably going to be a lot of wrestling because that's going to be Lupi Godinez's path to victory. Elise Reed, she will keep it on the feet. She will strike. Is this just cash money, Lupi Godinez all day long, or do you think Elise Reed has a real shot at victory here?
I'm leaning heavily, Derick, towards Lupi Godinez, but does Elise Reed have a shot to get it done? Yes, I do think she does, especially if Lupi is only going to be pushing the wrestling. If she's able to get knuckled up a little bit, then I see her getting into that situation of like, oh shit, what do I do now? Where do I go from here? That's where Elise Reed finds her best whenever she's able to control that chaos. But I'm leaning heavily towards Godinez. What about you, Derick?
Yeah, I think so too. I think Elise Reed is an underrated fighter, but I think that if Lupi Godinez can get a takedown, it can really all be over in pretty short fashion. Or if she can consistently get the takedown, it's going to be a washing machine match, you know? All right, AJ, only other ones that we haven't really talked about. I want to revisit it really quickly. Tracy Cortez, Jasmine Jasvidicius. So I had mentioned earlier, you got the pretty fighter, then you got the effective fighter. And not to say one's pretty and one's not, but the point is we know Tracy Cortez, the MMA fandom loves her, right? So I think that we're overestimating the capacity for victory here. Now, one thing you have to take into consideration is that combined, both of these fighters have roughly around 33 minutes of control time in their 4 UFC bouts respective. So that's combined for both of them together. Tracy Cortez does have more control time than Jasmine Jasvidicius by about 4 or 5 minutes, right? The point here is that I think that takedowns aside, who's the better striker? I think Jasmine Jasvidicius walks her down, bro. She is a beast. She is a little bit different because she has this almost taste for blood. This I have to walk you down and put it on you. This disgust on her face, like I'm in a real fight. This is not sport. I'm here to fight you. I don't know if Tracy Cortez holds that same vigor, tenacity. What do you think?
I don't think so, Derick. I firmly agree with you. I actually really like Jasvidicius in this fight because the argument is there, and I'm not saying this is true. I'm not saying that Tracy Cortez isn't skilled, but a lot of the argument is she's just pretty, so she's got into the UFC, especially when she was with Brian Ortega. It was like, you have that foot in the door. Oh, you're cute. Come on, let's go. You can make it on TV. I don't think that's the case. I do think Tracy Cortez is a very dangerous fighter, very, very skilled grappler, dangerous in a lot of aspects of the game. I just think Jasmine Jasvidicius has that bite to her. She has some teeth on her where she's willing to go into those scraps and get things done. And that's why I really like Jasvidicius in this. I think she's the better striker. I think she's faster in there, and she's going to be able to maintain that distance and piece Cortez up on the outside. We'll see, though. If Cortez can get this fight to the ground, I do expect good things out of her. I just think Cortez is a little more unproven, at least right now. We're going to have to see how her career unfolds, but at least right now, I just don't have the confidence in her I do as Jasvidicius.
I have a slightly different take. I agree with some of what you said. I do think that Tracy Cortez is actually the quicker fighter. I think Jasvidicius is long and lanky, a little slower, but the what she lacks in speed, she makes up for in pressure, right? And Tracy Cortez, from anything that I've seen on film, is that when you pressure her and you force her to go backwards, just not quite as effective. She does what they call the rhythm step, right? So forgive me, but I think his name is Coach Barry or something on Instagram. He talks about it a lot, but he talks about how we do this reset and then we just kind of get back into our groove. Well, if you do that reset, Jasvidicius is just going to keep walking you down. You know what I mean? So you have to circle out. You cannot do the rhythm step here. I think more than anything else, strength is going to be a surprise. I think Jasvidicius is going to be a little bit stronger, but I do think that Tracy Cortez is a very, very talented contender right here. And listen, man, she wins even when you counter out. The whole reason I've been bringing this up and I've been so adamant is because I just think that Jasvidicius as a dog, like this is live dog written all over it. So I'll just say this: throw some money on Jasvidicius. That's my prop lock. Remember, plus 130 decision victory. That's right. Cash it, take it to the bank. You know what time it is. All right, AJ. Only other thing I wanted to mention: Josephine Knudsen, right, did not get a contract on Dana White Contender Series. Swedish kickboxer, teammate of Khamzat Chimaev, and here she is in the UFC against Marnich Mann, who got head kicked by Bruna Brazil on Dana White Contender Series. Very viral clip. Any thoughts on this one?
This is going to be a fun one, especially because of the non-contract, man. This is an interesting one. Not a lot of people's eyes are on it. Not a lot of what some would call value in this fight. One, because it's leading off the card, not really known, but pay attention, folks. The only reason this didn't make it as my sleeper is because of the violence that's coming down the card. But this one is expected to have violence as well. Don't get me wrong.
All right, cool. With that being said, AJ, we made it to another outro, man. My Lord, here we are. UFC Vegas 80 is next week. We're not concerned about that because we got heavy things on the horizon this weekend. I don't really got much to promote here. AJ, I do want to kind of give the rollout to the people. Do want to let you guys know, if you like MMA, if you're a busy person, well, I got just the trick for you. Now, the Bloody Water Podcast, this is the home, this is the hub, this is where you get all the goodness, right? But if you need something quick on the go that's hitting your email, stay tuned. We're not promoting it heavy yet, but Fight Muse, that is going to be the MMA newsletter for the busy fight fan. So if you don't have time to be locked into everything and you can't watch an hour-long show or watch our clips, get a little quick email synopsis. We got you covered. More in store for that later. But aside from that, AJ, the people can find you where? YouTube? Santa Fe Bomber? Talk to them.
Exactly, folks. YouTube, Santa Fe Bomber. In fact, Santa Fe Bomber across all platforms. If you're looking to get a little inside view on my life, inside view of what I do, and especially if you're looking to get inside the mind of how I'm going into this week's picks, you gotta check out the YouTube, man. I'm putting up a new series called Quick Hits over there. So that way, it's just a fast little breakdown for you. But as always, if you want the real picks, you want the real breakdown, you want all of this greatness that we have amalgamated over the years, you need to tune in the Bloody Water Podcast. But at the same point, I am over there doing our own stuff, making sure it's fun for you folks. Make sure you subscribe there. But as always, you want to win some money. You want to have a great Saturday night. You want to walk out of the bar big-chested, beating your chest because you're the guy that won all the money, has all the respect in the area. You need to subscribe. You need to be tuning in right here, and you need to leave a comment because we know you're out there winning money. If you're taking our picks, you're cashing in on Sundays, and that's the best feeling in the world, is leaving with a pocket full of gold. We're excited for this fight weekend, and it's going to be a fun one, Derick. What you think?
Man, all I could think about when you were saying that right there was Nate Diaz when they ask you, what's the game plan for the night? Hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, walk out with a pocket full of cash, baby. That's all we got for you this week, folks. Catch us on Monday for the post show. Noche UFC, La Raza in the building. All right, folks, until next time. Peace.